watching The End Zone, sponsored by Lucky Star Casino.
And welcome to this week's edition of The End Zone. Along with my co-host TJ Eckert, I am Colby Daniels, and we have the Oklahoma State quarterback GOAT, Brandon Weeden, with us this week. As it's been a while since we've talked Oklahoma State football. The season ended a while ago. First non-bowl appearance since Mike Gundy's first year in Stillwater, which is still crazy to think about. But Brandon, we're glad to have you.
I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Glad you're here. This will be fun. We've talked for a long time off air about golf. I don't know how much golf we'll talk during the show. I don't know if people at home want to hear about it, but we've been talking golf for almost an hour now.
Yeah.
That's all we got going. Golf. Yeah, we can do that all day long.
Well, we might have to bring up a golf question a little bit later.
Perhaps.
We do have moving the chains later in the show, but we got to kick things off with this Oklahoma State football season and just your perspective on everything that happened, because this was a year where Oklahoma and Texas leave the Big 12. It was kind of an open driver's seat, right, for somebody to jump in and take control of the wheel of maybe the dominant force in Big 12 football. With so many returning starters, Oklahoma State seemed like they were the favorite to potentially do that. And what a wild season that no one could have predicted.
Yeah, I think that's the frustrating part is they were in the driver's seat to kind of take reign of the Big 12 going forward, with OU and Texas leaving. And so I think there was a lot of hype, a lot of expectations. And I'll be honest, I did not see it playing out that way. I mean, it was really kind of ugly from the start. I mean, they just really couldn't find the rhythm and identity on offense. Defense really scuffled. Had some injuries that obviously played into that a little bit. But, just a very un-Mike Gundy type year for Oklahoma State. And, hopefully it's just a blimp in the radar. We can move on and move on to bigger and better things. But yeah, it was a rough year. I mean, as a former player, you're watching, you're stressing out, you're kind of pulling your teeth out, like, hopefully they can right the ship and turn this thing around. It just never happened.
We were saying every week, like, this is the week, right? This is the week that maybe they'll get things headed in the right direction. And
it just never, to your point, the offense kind of scuffling around early on. They didn't have an identity, which is a great point. Once Ollie Gordon couldn't get going, teams kind of zeroed in on that's the guy we got to stop. It was almost as if there wasn't what's plan B or how do we counter now what defenses are doing to us? And they never really seemed to find an answer for that.
And I think that's a big piece of it, right? You got the best running back coming off the previous year in the country. So you're thinking he can kind of get things started. When things aren't going great, you can turn around and hand it to him. He can kind of get things going. Right? And that just wasn't the case. And, I wouldn't say it's 100% his fault. I mean, they had a hard time up front. Offensive line really struggled. Which was a little bit disappointing with all the guys they had coming back. But yeah, I mean, having a guy like that in the backfield, you think he can kind of be the bell cow you need to get some momentum when you especially late in the year and you're playing those physical games. But man, it was a year I haven't seen in a long time. So it was. I'm glad it's over, and I'm ready to move on to the next one.
Well, despite the standoff between Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy, he is coming back. Wholesale changes, though, on this coaching staff, and a guy you're familiar with, Doug Meacham, taking over as the OC.
Yeah, Meach is great. So Meach was the receivers coach when I was there. Love the guy. Big personality, a lot of fun to be around. He's got a little bit of Todd Monken in him, just a real happy-go-lucky guy. He's a very aggressive play caller. Obviously played offensive line, but he likes to sling the football. So I was excited to see that he came back. Got my roommate Andrew Mitchell back coaching offensive line along with Cooper Bassett. So that'll be fun to see that dynamic. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I knew there was going to be some changes made. I didn't know they were going to clean house and start from the top all the way to the bottom. But no, I think exciting times. Good for Coach Gundy. To understand that there was issues there and to take the initiative to move on and do what's best for the program. It's not always easy to do that.
No.
And he says it all the time. These guys have families. It's a profession. But at the same time, you got to win. And if you don't, that's how things usually happen.
You kind of hit on it there, but I want to kind of circle back to that. That's not easy to do, right? These are coaches that have been there for decades, some of them, right? I can't imagine that that's something easy to go through. Those conversations have to be difficult. On the outside, it's like, well, yeah, fire that guy. The receivers are struggling. The offensive line's not playing well. Just fire him. But it's not that easy. It's not that easy.
I think about Casey Dunn. I mean, Casey Dunn was there when I was there, so 2000. I think he came in 2010, if I remember right, and maybe 2011. But great guy. I mean, done a lot of really good things. Great recruiter, great receivers coach. And it's you become buddies. You spend so much time away from football that you build that relationship. So it's not hard to fire a friend. And it's just unfortunately, it's just a nasty part of that industry, and you got to do what you got to do to win.
I'm really curious to see what the quarterback situation is going to be next year. And first of all, they might have the toughest pronunciation guide as far as the quarterback room goes in all of the country, with Haas Haney now joining the mix and Maya Luwaki Smith. I think I got that right, but I'm not. I'm going to just pretend that I got it right. But the point is, 4 guys now, right, with the TCU transfer coming in that realistically it feels like have an option to play. And you've obviously been in that quarterback room in Stillwater looking for your first opportunity. But I think all 4 of these guys have something to them, and we'll see which guy ultimately gets the call.
Yeah, and without seeing Zane Flores out there, I mean, I was very vocal. I thought it was a little frustrating that he didn't play more. Let's see what you got.
Sure. Right.
I know he got hurt last year, but there's some games down the stretch where I thought maybe he can get in there and, let him get his feet wet, let him get hit, let him scuffle a little bit. That way, at least knows what to expect when he's throwing the fire. But yeah, the other guys, you got athletic quarterbacks, guys can throw it pretty well. Obviously, very more mobile, which I think that's where the position's kind of going, even at the next level. I'm excited. Not a lot of experience. I think that's probably the biggest issue, I would say. But I think Meach will do a good job with those young guys that haven't played a lot and keep it simple for them. Just got to have guys around them, and got to have running game and guys at receiver step up.
Maybe in the weeds a little bit here, but how do you think Meacham's system works with the mobile quarterback? You like it?
I do. I think. And again, I'm so far removed now, but I just from the outside looking in, I mean, he wants to do the air raid stuff. He wants to play fast. He's had mobile quarterbacks. I think he, I don't know if it's like Lamar Jackson, right? We're not do zone read, do quarterback power, but I think these guys are athletic enough that he's a creative guy. Well, I'll just say that he's very creative. He's going to think outside the box a little bit. So it'll be fun from week in and week out to see what he draws up, because it's going to be different than when I was playing, or even Clint could run, but those guys, it's just a different system now than when Dana and Todd Munker were there calling plays.
I think you could run QB power.
1 yard, baby.
That's all we need.
You've been running at Stanford, right? I mean,
it took forever, but
one of the best quarterback runs in OSU history. Clint did proclaim himself the fastest OSU quarterback
he did say that.
in program history when he was here.
I'll take J.W. Walsh over Clint.
Okay, all right. Well,
It'll
there
be
we
close.
go.
They're both pretty cool. I shouldn't. I have no reason to talk about that. I was at the bottom of the.
Well, you have no bias, right?
That's right.
You have no bias. You're not in the conversation. So
Yeah.
there you go. All right, Brandon Whedon is joining us, former Oklahoma State quarterback, and also spent some time in the NFL, including 2 years with the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get his take on the Cowboys' head coaching job. That's next here on the End Zone. All right, welcome back. Brandon Whedon is our guest this week on the End Zone, and we've got to talk about something that you have very good knowledge on, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. You were there, 2014 and 2015,
Correct. Yep.
if my memory serves. They are making a coaching change, and they've been criticized this week for the way they've handled the entire situation. As a lifelong Cowboy fan, I always call it the circus, right? I mean, because it has a circus-like atmosphere. And how else would you expect them to handle something like this? I mean, this just kind of seems to be the way that they do business. But another former Cowboy quarterback had an interesting take early in the week about what the Cowboys did with Mike McCarthy and maybe how coveted this job is. Troy Aikman said, "I think most football people that take over as head coach want to do things on their terms, and that's hard to do in Dallas. You take Dan Campbell, for instance. Is Dan Campbell if he is with the Cowboys? It's hard to imagine that he is. It's hard to imagine that a lot of these coaches might be. I love the Dallas Cowboys. I played there for 12 years. I wish them well, but to say it's a coveted job, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that." So obviously times change, and I'm sure a lot of that front office might be different than when you were there, but you are familiar with just the way that things are run. So, I mean, how much truth is there to what Troy Aikman is saying about the Cowboys?
I mean, he's spot on. And you just don't expect Troy to say that. It's the same front office. I mean, obviously Jerry calls the shots, and then Will McClay. All those guys are they're all the same guys. That place is so unique. We don't have enough time on the segment to talk about it, But as long as Jerry is calling the shots, I mean, it is not a coveted job. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. I mean, I look at Deion. Everybody, there's a lot of talk about Deion going there. Obviously, he's done a great job at Colorado. Do those personalities click? And if I'm Dion, do I want to take that job?
Right.
And
Sure.
because you want to have control and have a little bit of roster control and have some say. Because if you don't win, you're the guy getting fired. So, it's such a unique environment. If I had my choice among others, I'm not sure it would be my number one choice. It's just it's too much of a spectacle. You have no control. Everybody throws around the term puppet. You're essentially a puppet.
Yeah.
And you're going to do what Jerry says, and whether you like it or not. So Troy's spot on. He's not a very outspoken guy usually.
Right.
That's what was so
for him to
shocking
say
about the
that,
comments. Yeah.
And he is spot on. I couldn't agree anymore. I couldn't say it any better. Dan Campbell's definitely not the Dan Campbell he is in Detroit.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be that in Dallas. So it's a mess. It's a mess down there. Mike McCarthy, I didn't think that was a great hire. I didn't think it was a good fit personality-wise and all that. But it's going to be interesting to see who they go get. It's a big-time job, obviously. You got a great quarterback. You got a good receiver. You got some pieces. They're just not built to win right now.
What is a good personality fit there then? That's what I was thinking as you were answering. I'm like, okay, so what would work there with Jerry?
I think you got to have a guy that's going to have be able to push back a little bit, and I think that's the only way it gets done. I mean, because look at Jason Garrett. I love Jason Garrett. Great guy. Played for him. I'm not sure he's the personality that's going to push back. Mike McCarthy, clearly not the guy that's going to push back. You got to have. It's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean,
right.
that brand travels. We played over in London. There was Dallas Cowboy people there. I mean, it's a global deal. You got to have a guy in there that can see eye to eye, can put his foot down and say, hey, no, we need to do this. And I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who they go get. I love Dion. I love everything he's doing. I just do not see him being a fit with that personality going into Dallas. I just think it's a recipe for disaster.
It seems like too much of a clash. Same thing if it were to be Bill Belichick. But like you said, you have to have some pushback. I always just thought like maybe a guy like Pete Carroll would be able to massage a pushback enough
Yeah.
because he's kind of laid back, but he still kind of like does his thing
In control.
without being like
Sure.
Bill Parcells about it and just all in your face. I don't know. It's going to take a very unique type of guy to make that work and be successful if it can work and be successful.
One thing real quick is you look at the betting odds and who's favored and all those, and there are a lot of young guys,
Yeah.
a lot of non-head coach experience. You don't see it. There's no Pete Carroll. There's really no. I mean, I'm sure they're on there, but the
Far
top
down.
5 or 6 guys are all younger guys, offense coordinator, defense coordinators that don't have any head coach experience. And I'm not sure that's the answer. Another thing back to Dion. I think if I'm Dion, I'm thinking, okay, I'm a Hall of Famer. I played there. I have a great relationship with Jerry. If things go south, you spoil that.
Right.
It could get messy, in my opinion.
No doubt.
That's just the taking football aside. That's off the field. That's relationships and everything else. Does Dion want to jeopardize that? We'll find out.
A guy who was up high on the list, Lincoln Riley. Again.
I
It
don't
happens
get it.
every
I don't
year.
get that.
Take that for
It
what it's
won't
worth,
happen, but again, that's just
Take
another
that.
name that seems to get
Right.
elevated every time these
Right.
openings come up. I don't know if that's going to
By the way, Kellen Moore, the betting favorite at last check. All right, we've got to take a timeout. Brandon Whedon in the hot seat. We're moving the chains next here on the End Zone. All right, welcome back to the End Zone. It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Moving the Chains. Brandon Whedon is our guest this week. So, simple concept. You start with 1st and 10. We'll fire a question your way. Depending on how well or not well you answer it, we will grade that answer and give you positive or negative yardage. The goal is to get a first down. If you can put one in the end zone, though, that's even better.
Okay.
So
Clint Shelf did.
Clint Shelf got one.
No pressure, right?
Who was in that quarterback room back in 2011, which is actually the perfect segue. 2011, Iowa State, was the field goal good? Was Quinn Sharp's kick good on that night in Ames, Iowa?
100%. Yes. From my angle, from the TV angle, to me it looked good. That's what happens when you're on the road and you make it that close. But yes, it looked good.
I thought it was good, so I'll give you 5 yards. I'll give you 5 yards.
Okay,
Not
there
a
we
field
go.
goal or a touchdown, but
Sorry.
I thought it was good too.
No
So
points on the board, but okay.
our opinions match, so good gain on first down. 2nd and 5. We like doing Mount Rushmores here, so I need 4 guys. We're talking wide receivers. Wide receiver you, right, with Oklahoma State. So who would you say your 4 wide receivers from OSU would be on Mount Rushmore?
That's a tough one.
There's
I got to
a lot
go.
of names.
My guy JB's got to be 1.
Yep.
Des Bryant, one of my all-time favorite. Got to be 2. Maybe you got to say what Rashawn Woods did was
That's good.
really impressive. Oh man, it's hard. There's so many good ones. Go back to Hartley Dykes.
Yeah.
I got to throw James Washington in there. It was a
Okay.
little more recent. The guy's a stud.
I like that.
He was a heck of
Also
player.
a Bolitnikoff winner, right?
Yeah. I think that's a good list. I like
Okay.
those 4. Yeah.
You threw Brennan Presley on yours earlier in the season, right?
I did, but I'm biased, being a Bixby guy. But
Well,
he had a great.
he's one of my all-time favorite
Yeah,
players to watch.
great career.
Look at me, I love
Great
watching.
career.
I mean, Tylan Wallace was
Yeah.
sensational.
So many
I mean,
names.
they've had, as far as just high-end college
man.
performances, I mean, they've been as good as nearly anybody in college football over the last couple decades. So,
How do you do? What we give him?
let's give him a first down.
Okay, good.
Yeah, let's
Good
give
start.
him a
Good start.
Love it.
chunk play.
Moving the
What
We
yard-
already got a first
what
down.
yard line am I on here?
We're,
We in the red zone?
working for more.
Might take a shot.
All right, this can really be whether it's something on the field,
okay.
something off the field with teammates or coaches.
This could be
Your favorite memory as far as your time at Oklahoma State goes?
just one. Wow.
Oh man, this is. I get this question a lot. For me, it was celebrating on the field after we beat OU the way we beat them in Stillwater to win a Big 12 championship. I mean, you couldn't even feel your body. I mean, I had to put my helmet back
so
on because I was
cold.
getting hit in the head. It was freezing
It was
that night.
so cold.
But you didn't feel you couldn't tell. It was.
Right.
I ended up running my wife. Somehow we met. Somehow it was pretty cool. And yeah, that was. I would say that was. I mean, one, to beat Oklahoma the way we did, to win the first Big 12 championship in school history.
Yeah.
That's hard to top that one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. So we'll give you a first down, and we'll say you're in the red zone.
All right, perfect.
So this
Let's take a
is
shot.
2 first downs.
So
All
this,
right.
so this one's gonna be hard because it's a golf question. So we're gonna be able to. But I need to see if Colby's able to get a good yardage.
Well, I was
based on
actually
golf.
going to say
to-
you might want
Okay, that's
to
fine. I'll do it.
want to grade this
I
one
will.
just because you're probably
I will.
more knowledgeable on what this answer could
Well,
be.
this is a tough one. You've played a lot of golf around the state. Give me the most underrated golf course in our state. Underrated.
Underrated.
Yeah. So Southern Hills is the best golf course in the state, probably. So that's not a good answer.
Yeah.
Underrated, right?
Yeah, and I've been at Oak Tree National forever now.
Yeah.
Want to love that place.
Yep.
Underrated golf course.
Yep. Yeah.
Ooh.
One that's like, oh, people really haven't know much about that one, right?
I tell you,
Public or private too.
okay.
I don't know if that helps or hurts.
I mean, we were talking about it earlier. I think the Patriot, just experience from the
Really
time you
good.
enter the gates.
Yep.
You know, the food, the atmosphere, the service, the
Yep.
amenities. The Patriot is really, really good. A lot of people from the city haven't been up there and played it. You don't really feel like you're in Oklahoma. It's just
Great point.
it's a great place. I'd put it up there on the short list for sure.
Okay, because I love the Patriot. I'll give you a touchdown.
I love it.
All right, all right.
We are in the end zone with Brandon Whedon. Great answer.
Punched one in.
That's good. Twin Hills is underrated for me.
That was going to be my second one.
It's a really good one. So
Yeah.
I like. We did good there. We scored.
All right, there we go.
got
A
there.
couple of
Come on.
first downs and the
touchdown.
touchdown. So
Love
I
it.
don't think that's ever been done, right? We've
I don't
had some
think so.
chunk play touchdowns,
Yes.
but never first down touchdowns.
Better
so,
than Clint Shelf. You hear that, Clint?
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Brandon Whedon doing it again here on the End Zone. All right, let's talk about this national championship matchup to wrap up this edition of the End Zone next. All right, it is finally time for college football's national championship on Monday night. We have an awesome matchup, 2 of the most historic programs in college football history, Ohio State and Notre Dame. I'll just say before we talk about the matchup, it's been a lot of fun actually watching 2 teams earn their right to play for
Sure.
this thing, right? And not just be gifted like a red carpet.
Yeah.
I mean, these teams had to win 3 games each to punch their ticket to this championship game. But in terms of the matchup, I love what Notre Dame has done this postseason. I'm a little worried if the injuries may be too much
Sure.
at this stage, but nobody can argue that Ohio State is playing the best football in the country down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, Marcus Freeman is turning into one of my favorite college coaches. I mean,
Definitely.
the way he does it,
Definitely.
the way he handles it, post-game, pre-game, he does all the right things. Obviously, his guys love playing for him. He's, he's what you want your kid to go play for, right?
Yeah,
And he's just,
great point.
he means, those kids mean a lot to him. Great football team. I just think they're running into a buzzsaw. I think Ohio State across the board is just too fast, too physical, a little bit too athletic. I'm kind of surprised Will Howard is doing what he's doing up there. I didn't see that coming. I
You
know
mean
he-
Joe Montana?
yeah, right. I didn't think that he did, but he's got studs all around him. So I do see see Ohio State winning this football game, but I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out. 2 really good defenses and physical football game.
Imagine telling somebody 2 years ago that it'd be Will Howard versus Riley Leonard for a national
right.
championship. Hard to believe. Ohio State is a perfect example in this new playoff format of finding a way to get hot in the postseason and then just riding it, right? I mean, they got dominated by Michigan, like physically dominated.
That's right.
Michigan was the more physical team in that game, outplayed them for sure, and then now it, woke them up. A switch flipped, and now they're playing for a national title. Pretty crazy to see.
Yeah, I mean, and flip the coin. You go back, maybe the worst loss in college football.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois,
That's
and they,
right.
Yeah.
they right the ship and they get their way there. That's why I do like this playoff. You know, you get in, and then it's who's playing
Right.
the best football late in the year. So
Right.
it's going to be a great matchup. I'm excited to watch it. It sucks that the college football is almost over.
I know.
But I do think two really good football teams that want to hit you in the mouth and play good defense.
Hopefully Notre Dame can shorten it, and at least we have an exciting game
No
to
doubt.
wrap up the college football season. Thanks to Brandon Whedon for joining us, along with TJ Eckert. I'm Colby Daniels. Everybody have a great weekend, and we're back next week.